Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Post-fight review for David Adeleye versus Solomon Dacres, and also Lawrence Okolie versus Hussein Muhamed. So a pair of first-round knockouts here. We'll start with David Adeleye first. So this fight, or these two fights, were on the Frank Warren card, the Magnificent 7 in the United Kingdom. And you had David Adeleye putting in a career-best performance to wrest the English title away from Dacres, and actually he ended up taking it conclusively. It was a huge left hook which caught Dacres in the first round about midway through, top of the head, and he was all at sea, down like a sack of potatoes off a cliff. He tried to get up, face planted on the canvas. The referee had seen enough and waves it off. So David Adeleye takes the English title from Solomon Dacres, and right from the first bell, Adeleye was looking pretty composed, and you could sort of see the impact that some of his shots were having. The jab was especially fast, but also there was a nice right to the body, and it looked like he was the one that certainly had the speed advantage, and he was able to connect midway through that round with Dacres on the top of the head. So good performance for David Adeleye, who had been out of the ring for a year, and that was last time he was out was against Fabio Wardley, and he was the one that was stopped. A few months ago he did have a right arm injury, but obviously the extra time, and especially now that he's with a new trainer, Adam Booth, it's obviously given him a bit more training time and to get that relationship together. So after the fight, we'll go to the comments here and then talk a little bit about the what next, because I wouldn't mind seeing a fight with maybe Fraser Clarke. But you do have David Adeleye saying that he's still got a lot to do. He wants to get back in the gym, and he knows that Adam wants a lot more from him. And Booth said he's an athlete. He had some bad habits, and one of the things that he said he's been working on especially was on the legs and also his balance. He said, look, the jab and the lead hook was always good, and he said the left hook was amongst the hardest, if not the hardest, that he's ever taken on the pads. But he said he needed to do some stuff, some basics with Adeleye just to correct a few things. From what we saw there, obviously it seems to have done the trick, but this is at a certain level, the English level. We've seen Adeleye at the British level. He fell short against Fabio Wardley, but I expect to see him up there again at British level, and that should be his next step. Frank Warren, he said in the post-fight, that Adeleye was now back on track. He's got unbelievable power, and he's put himself back in the mix. And I guess back in the mix, what does that mean? Where does that mean? Because this is English domestic level for the English title. Solomon Dacres as an opponent is good at a certain level. I was predicting that Adeleye would win this one, and I thought he might get a stoppage potentially. Just a few things that I'd seen in that first fight with Michael Webster had me cooling on Solomon Dacres. We know that he didn't have a lot of power, but there are a few other sort of holes that were exposed. But I didn't expect this to end so early. So it was a devastating performance from that perspective, and Solomon Dacres obviously probably caught a little cold and on the seat of his pants. So David Adeleye advances, and I think somewhere, British title level, Fabio Wardley is moving up to world level, all that sort of stuff. What about Fraser Clarke? Clarke has just fought Wardley. He lost early in that one. I actually think that's a pretty well-matched fight. For a while there was the talk of a bit of a foursome in terms of Wardley, Clarke, Dacres, and Adeleye. And I think Solomon Dacres has sort of dropped off the edge of that. But I think David Adeleye, even in that fight against Fabio Wardley, he didn't disgrace himself. He was competitive, but he obviously needs to continue to grow and improve. And he's got about a dozen fights under the belt now. And I think a fight with him and Fraser Clarke, who I think his level is somewhere around British or, European, I actually think that's well matched, and that could be a good fight for him. But if not, maybe they'll go the European route. Potential, there are some potential fights out there for him, but I wouldn't mind seeing another sort of domestic sort of dust up with the likes of Fraser Clarke. But very good performance, and I think a statement has been made by David Adeleye, who's been out of the ring for this past year. So welcome back to the division, David Adeleye. And then Lawrence Okolie. So he also stopped Hussein Muhamed, the German heavyweight, who, let's face it, despite what they were saying on the broadcast, he only got the one loss, it was a very padded record. And I've seen Muhamed fight a number of times before. He is very much German domestic level. We've seen that Lawrence Okolie was at one point the best cruiserweight in the world, sort of outgrew that weight. He was at bridgerweight for a bit of a spot. I mean, whether you recognise it as a legitimate world title, over to you. I'm a bit on the fence about whether that really counts. But, I mean, one thing that I think we all knew was true, that Lawrence Okolie was going to come up to heavyweight and potentially could have some success. And Hussein Muhamed was a first up, soft lob into the entry into the heavyweight division. Pretty decent looking record, but really he was very overmatched. And he tried to trade with Okolie, and ironically he was the one trying to tie up against Okolie. But ultimately, when he was swinging and trying to trade with Okolie, Okolie catches him with a counter, and he absolutely wrecks him with a right hand, sends him to the canvas. He does try to get up. The referee gives him the opportunity to get up, but he is in no fit state to continue. And it's waved off. So Lawrence Okolie, and I guess what some would say is his first proper fight at heavyweight. Well, certainly he was 260 pounds on the scale, 260.8. I in the ring thought, he's looking a little bit top heavy there. Naturally, he doesn't have huge sort of thick, broad legs, but he was certainly carrying a bit of meat. I actually think that 260 is maybe a touch too high. 245, 250 might be there or thereabouts an ideal weight, because at a certain point it could catch up with you. Not against the likes of this competition, but after the fight, his trainer, Joe Gallagher, he was saying that they were really trying to work on some things and also get rid of the bad smell of the hugging and the holding that Lawrence Okolie has been so well known for. And if he continues to do that sort of stuff in the heavyweight division, he's not going to win a lot of fans or accolades. But Gallagher obviously aware that it's an entertainment sport and people don't want to see the octopus return. But Okolie, he looked decent in there. I think we know that he's got a big right hand. He's a powerful guy. He was always a natural sort of heavyweight at 6'5", 6'6", and eventually he was going to sort of fill out and be a heavyweight. I didn't necessarily expect he'd be coming in for what would be his so-called first proper fight at heavyweight, being 260, but it is what it is. Like I say, he can get away with this. So where to next? Well, Lawrence Okolie is no scrub, and he's fought at a really good level in the cruiserweight and then at bridgerweight. I mean, Lucas Rozansky, who he beaten a round or so, or whatever it was. I mean, Rozansky would have absolutely waxed Hussein Muhamed. So they're going to have to step up the opposition, but this was dipping his toe into it, with his new promoter, Frank Warren. He has done what he needed to do. He's impressed. He's made a little bit of a mini statement that, I can still knock people out and look powerful at heavyweight. 260-pound heavyweight in Lawrence Okolie. So it'll be interesting to see where they take him next, because they don't need to necessarily take their time. I think he should aim a bit higher than British domestic level. He should be going somewhere straight into decent European or fringe world level competition, because let's face it, he's a seasoned enough fighter. He doesn't need too much in the way of tune-ups or anything like that. He needs to actually be tested at this point, because otherwise, well, what's the point? So, good performance by Lawrence Okolie. He did what he needed to do against a well-overmatched opponent. David Adeleye, I think, career best performance. A brace of first-round knockouts for the heavyweights on Frank Warren's Magnificent 7 card. What did you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.